TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Monday Closing Bell. January 13th, 2025. Blink, and we're already halfway through January. In comes the shortest month of the year, February. Shit, we'll be talking March Madness, the Masters. Before you know it, the Kentucky Derby. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself. Anyways, shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. Of course, it's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It's free. I promise you, Zach, Travis, myself, Amber Holly, Jay Berry, Matt. The list is endless. We'll take good care of you in 2025. I promise you that. Viva Tequila Seltzer. 6 new flavors. The latest, lemon. And of course, the East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. Go try one where you drink and purchase adult beverages. Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Jump on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith. While you're there, head on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Start 2025 off right. 4 great subscription plans. Check a box, and every 30 days, presto magic. Steaks, chops, lambs, appetizers, you name it, it is at your doorstep. Terry, great friend, colleague, will be on tomorrow morning after Andrew McGinnis, and we'll talk about his post-surgery and, of course, the exiting of the Georgia Bulldogs and, of course, the Atlanta Falcons. And what the hell is this Braves team doing? Nothing. So without further ado, glad that he's here today. I was waiting for a doctor's note or something, but he's a man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Riley Magnuson. What's up, champ?
What is up, my friend? You are right. I am here despite my sorrows in Packerland over here. But another day. Got to get to the grind. So we got football tonight. We got other sports tonight. So I'm here. I'm here to stand up for the nation, Packer Nation. But obviously not outside of last night's game, not a very entertaining weekend of NFL action altogether. I know. 4 teams similar to my Packers, including my Packers, kind of singing the same tune of not showing up offensively. So not the only ones that are swimming in some ugly sorrows over here. Probably one of the 2 that had the better chances of actually winning their game. But nonetheless, kudos to the Eagles. Eagles defense was great, and they're moving on to face the winner of tonight's game, which I'm sure we'll talk about, obviously. And, we got some other matchups set, a couple good ones next week, one way or another. The Bills-Ravens next week is going to be phenomenal. I can't wait for that game. So good weekend, good weekend upcoming, I assume. And we had a couple good college football games this leading into the weekend that, obviously I'm sure we'll reflect on.
It's funny because I wanted to save the Packers, and then you were talking, and I changed the banner to NFL. We're going to get to the NFL. We're going to get to Vrabel. We're going to get to McCarthy. What a blunder Dallas made. Jesus, might as well wait a week. Vrabel's already signed. Ben Johnson's making his rounds. And, oh, by the way, Mike, Jerry, please, hand the keys off to someone else, please. We're going to get to all that. Let's go to college because we did not have a show on Friday. I had to try to remember, did we or did we not? 2 games Thursday and Friday. What did I see? 2 great games. 2 games that, were within a whisker of really overtime and a tie with 4 minutes to go. Let's go to Penn State. Dominant. I use the word dominant, and I don't use that often. First half, they could do what they want. Abdul Carter is going to look so good as a Patriot. Probably just moved way up past the 4th spot, way to us. And kept going. Halftime, Coach Freeman, oh my God, he made some moves, 2 straight touchdowns, and you're like, all right, James Follies Franklin, you did us in. Came back. Now you got the ball, 47 seconds left, 3 timeouts. He's not Tom Brady, okay? Where in the first Super Bowl that they won 30 seconds, couple timeouts, we'll take you to the promised land. James Franklin's got to grab him by his 2 ears and say, listen, Mr. Aller, the worst case scenario here is we go to overtime and we either win or lose the coin toss. That's it. Don't do anything stupid. And whoever the OC is, hand it to the right, hand it to the left. If you pop one, then maybe. What happened to your Big Ten knitting lines?
Oh, no, I mean, you said it. I mean, even to just piggyback off your analogy, he's not Tom Brady that first Super Bowl. If you go back to that broadcast, the great John Madden is like beside himself, like, what the hell are the Patriots doing? Take a knee, take this thing to overtime. Of course, that man turned out to be Tom Brady. We know that Drew Aller is not Tom Brady. And is, at times prone to make mistakes. Obviously, he can have his moments, but no, that was it right there. And like you said, fantastic defensive performance in the first half. Didn't obviously have it in the fourth quarter, and then you go back and forth for a stretch there, and we've got a classic on our hands. But just some resiliency from Notre Dame. Obviously, Riley Leonard for the majority of that game wasn't fantastic. But he, at the end of the game, obviously didn't make mistakes at the right time, and so it was almost who was avoided the mistakes as opposed to who made the big plays in the end there. So James Franklin obviously is going to keep his job for a long time here. I hope people get off of his back that he was a minute away or an overtime away from going to a national championship. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, so I don't think he deserves any real heat necessarily, and can't get over the big hump, whatever it is. He got over some humps this year, and getting that far that he did. So, no, it's tough, and Notre Dame obviously is a good representative of the way they've played since losing to Northern Illinois in my neck of the woods, not Big Ten, but my neck of the woods, obviously. The Northern Illinois faithful are close to hanging up a banner if they're the only if Notre Dame wins this thing next week. But nonetheless, kudos to both these teams. But both these quarterbacks made mistakes, but obviously the one that Aller made was the most timely and back-breaking right there.
Go to Friday. The whole world's on Ohio State, the greatest team since, I don't know, the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, this team dismantles Tennessee after the Michigan loss, dismantles the Ducks. Now, an overinflated number, I don't know if it closed at 6.5, 5.5, depends on obviously where you were shopping. A game that was good. It was fun. Texas had chances. But again, good afternoon to Mr. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. Happy Monday to you, Daniel. Sark, another coach that is a genius, that is brilliant. First and goal from the 1, down 7, less than 4 minutes to go. Riley, I would have handed it to you 4 times. I would have handed it to my daughter. Pitch sweep, lose 7. Long story short, I mean, anyone that had a teaser, let's say, and I don't use those often, of Texas, let's just say plus 12.5, saying, well, at least we're gonna, lose by 7 here. The strip sack bounces into his hands like a breadbasket off 85, 90 yards. Ohio State wins by 14. Thoughts on Ohio State and Texas?
No, I mean that one's gonna haunt them for a long time. I mean, do they deserve to win that game? Do they win that game if it goes beyond that? Who knows? I obviously we're not saying that, but when you get those opportunities, you obviously got to cash in. And like you said, just run the ball up the middle or off the guard. If that's where you switch up a little bit outside of the middle, an inch off the middle, whatever it is. So no, it obviously wasn't the most high flying game, 21-14 up until that point, obviously. But yeah, I mean we saw Ohio State outside of the fumble 6, but 21-14 game, we saw them win those types of games against some good teams. We saw them doing it against Penn State. I think it was 20-13, or if that wasn't the final score, that was close to the ending score of that game. So they've proven that they can win those close games, which is really important for a good team like that. So it's just interesting, especially Ohio State, the trajectory of where we've gone from them from 8 weeks ago to the loss at Michigan to, man, Ryan Day's got to make a run to save his job. Now he's an 8-point favorite in the national championship game here. So I think he's gave himself some good grace here. I guess I don't know what the MO or the feeling behind him would be if they lost as an 8-point favorite to Notre Dame. I don't know what the heat would be like there, I guess, but at the end of the day, kudos to them. And by the way, they what was it? Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch for 3 yards. The guy that we anointed as, and rightfully so. The guy's an absolute stud. But they proved that they can do it elsewhere. So if Notre Dame's going to want to win that game, I more than just shutting Jeremiah Smith down, I think which they've done all year, got to make Will Howard force him into mistakes, and they've done a really good job of that. Obviously, case in point with the Drew Aller interception there, but I think more than just one kind of mistake, it's got to be 2-3 mistakes that they got to force Will Howard into, and we're kind of scratching our head like, man, I guess Ohio State was a more consistent quarterback away from winning this thing. That's the path for Notre Dame, I think, next week.
Well, here's the funny, Calvin Smith, you're 1 win away from $500,000. God bless you. Tried to get you on today, but work schedule too tough. We're going to either get him on next Monday before the game or after, win, lose, or draw there. But the funny is, if you had Ohio State winning the national championship with 2 losses and not winning the Big Ten regular season, you're smarter than 99.9% of the people in the world. So again, we got a week to go over that game. As you said, it tipped as high as 9.5, dipping down to 8. I don't know what it'll be. It'll be interesting to see where that kicks off at game time next Monday. NFL. I said it in one of my alerts that you receive. The Patriots made an absolute mockery of the Rooney Rule, where you have to interview at least 2 minority candidates. So let's backtrack here. Patriots getting ready to play the final season game against Buffalo. On Friday, Mike Vrabel comes to the New York Jets, which we know of already between Parcells and Belichick, the heated rivalry. You go, coach. No, you go, coach. We're going to steal you, coach. And we know they passed history of that. But my point is, Patriots win. They beat Buffalo. 90 minutes later, Mayo is fired. So already the wheels are spinning like there's no bleeping way the Jets are getting Vrabel. That's our guy. That's what Kraft is saying out loud. That's my prodigal son. That's my Mikey. No way in hell. So he fires Mayo. So what's he do? He brings in Pep Johnson. He brings in Byron Leftwich. He doesn't even interview Brian Flores, who's been in New England before, worked for them, and some other Aaron Glenn said thanks, but no thanks. They interview Ben Johnson. They interview Vrabel. Well, they hire Vrabel like this. I guess the Giants, I think his name is Cohen, is going to allow him to come here. The word on the street is Josh McDaniel. Almost like they're bringing the gang back. Elliot Wolf still in the building. I'm hearing mixed reviews. Now, here's what I'm going to compare this to. The Celtics. Brad Stevens gets an extension, loses the locker room, and gets called into the office by Wick and says, hey, I got to replace you as coach, but you're not coaching anywhere else. You're going upstairs. Danny's flying the coop, and we're going to bring in a new coach. I think the same thing with Elliot Wolf. Hey, bring him into the office. Hey, I'll leave the title there just so you can feel good, but we're taking most of your, let's say, your entitlement away. Mike's coming into town. He's bringing his guys, and you all are going to play in the sandbox very nice together.
Right. No, that is what it seems like, and you said it. I mean, and when the writing's on the wall and you're some of these coaches, why would you waste your time with an interview like that when you know exactly what they're going to do? So, I'm curious to see what the future holds there. I mean, the offseason that's upcoming for the Patriots is obviously an interesting one. So, you got your quarterback, and got a lot of pieces that can fall into place outside of that. So, I'm curious to see where it goes. Going over to the Cowboys, you said it in the intro. If you were going to move on from McCarthy, why in the hell are you waiting in this type of fashion to make that decision? If the decision is you don't want to have a firing on your record, and you just have a contractual parting of ways is really bizarre. And you had the chance or some type of chance when the Bears ask for an interview and you say no, and then everyone's like, okay, so they must be holding on to him then. And the answer there is no. And more than that, though, now if you because, I mean, the Cowboys open up as obviously a hot job in some senses. I mean, obviously, like you said, Jerry Jones is, the leadership there is questionable. You have an owner that's willing to obviously open up the checkbook to a degree. You already have pieces in place that command a lot of money, and maybe that in the future shifts around if you want to keep Dak or not. But at the end of the day, maybe this is an attractive job for a guy like Ben Johnson. But now you have to wait until the end of the season. You don't get to interview Ben Johnson like everybody else did this past week. You have to wait now. And so that makes the hiring process so much different for them. And they could be left with scraps at the end of the day. I mean, these guys could be making their decisions pretty soon here, whether they're still in coaching teams or not. So it's really it's embarrassing the way they handled that in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, Mike McCarthy gets to throw his hat into the name of some of these places, and now he can go interview with Chicago if that's the case. So I'm curious to see what his market is. He sounds like he's commanding a lot of or asking for a lot of money. So I don't know if the market will match that demand or not. But I think McCarthy is going to find a job, but and so it's not a disaster for him necessarily, but disastrous for the Cowboys in a lot of ways there for sure.
Yeah, you'll hear the public cry, Deion Sanders, prime time,
Yeah.
prime time. I don't think that's the move. I've seen some Jason Witten. That sounds more like the move. Another puppet. You report to me. You say all the right things. Yes, Jerry. No, Jerry. Yes, Jerry.
Yeah.
I could see something more like that. Again, Bill Belichick was a name that we talked about for a couple years now. Well, I know, and Jerry's not cutting that $10 million check so he can get him before June 1st. So, again, Bill will have to, maybe they bring Witten in for a year. Maybe he flounders like Mayo, and then Bill's sitting there at the front door saying, hey, I'm over here. And then, he pulls a Jimmy Johnson or something, or Bill Parcells like that. So, yes, they did ruin that one as well. As for the games, everyone bitching, yelling, screaming about how could the committee invite this team? How, every time it was a blowout. The wild card weekend is usually like that. And the funny thing is the one game that you thought could have been the upset ended up being the upset with Washington getting the doink victory. You don't see that very often. The guy was shitting his pants and he gets up there, hits 37. I mean, it looked like me off of a tee box here where I'm trying to hook it and I slice it, a doink, and it goes in. Hats off to Jaden Daniels. My love affair for him. Gets to go into Detroit. This was always the Patriots setting, so I can explain this real good to people. The Patriots in their 2-decade run would have the number 1 seed. They'd have a week off, and then they would sit and wait for what we call the tomato can, and meaning a team that played last week that's got to come into our stadium after not getting a bye week, double-digit underdogs, and face the Patriots, and they usually lost 41-10 or something like that. Well, the actual opening number for Washington, who we all respect, was 10.5. Detroit opens up 10.5 against Washington, down to 8.5 at the Circa. So Jeffrey Benson and people bought heavy on the Commanders there. We had crack on this morning, and all the shops love that number 10.5. Just keep giving it to me, all the way down to 8.5 there. It's mostly 9s and 9.5s everywhere else. Houston, a little upset winner, which we had against the Chargers, opened at 7.5-point underdogs, now 8 to Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes will have like 30 days off, so probably a little rust to start in that first half there. Philadelphia will host the winner of tonight's game. Currently, the Vikings 2.5-point favorites with a 47 against the Rams in Arizona because of the wildfires. And the game of the year, the game of the century, whatever you want to call it, the 2 MVPs, Allen and Lamar. Buffalo opened up 1-point favorites with a 51.5. Ravens now 1-point favorites, 1.5 at DraftKings with a 51.5. Now, listen, when I put my numbers together, I nailed it, but I said I expected by kickoff to be Ravens' favorite. What I can't wrap my head around, Riley, is the 51.5. I had this at like 55. I thought they're going to roll the ball out. First one to 31 wins this game. You got the alert. You got our exactas. You know where we are here. So far, we're standing tall. Thoughts on the weekend's games, and then I will set you up on the Packers game after that.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait there. No, but no, I'm obviously excited for that Bills and Ravens game. In my opinion, the winner of that is the Super Bowl rep for the AFC. In my opinion, no disrespect to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are obviously could very well show up and continue to be the Chiefs that we've seen. I'm not trying to poo-poo the Chiefs. I just think these two teams are that good and better on in a lot of ways than the Chiefs are. So I'm going Bills or Ravens over the Chiefs. If that has happened, and again, like you said, there could be some rust for the Chiefs. I actually was leaning towards the Chargers going into Houston and winning that game, and then getting a rusty Chiefs team and Jim Harbaugh and that crew having a great game plan against the Chiefs and finding a way to upset them. That was the track I was on for a week leading up to that game, and then obviously a bad day for the Justin Herbert fan club over here. But going forward, I think you and I both expect them to build that offense more around Justin Herbert and have that maybe be his hopefully his darkest day in the rearview mirror, and we start to see a lot more playoff wins under his belt. But at the end of the day, if the Texans' defense shows up the way they did, that could be a really, really scrappy game and a really kind of dangerous game for that Chiefs team, because I think the Chiefs' defense will show up and give the Texans' offense trouble. But, man, if that Texans' defense shows up the way they did the other day, that could be a really, really interesting game. And then as far as what's the other one that I'm drawing a blank on? Ravens, obviously, handling the Steelers. Steelers got a lot of question marks going into next year. What do they do at quarterback? What do they do? I don't think they're going to move on from Tomlin, but I know a lot of people obviously, kind of ready for a change there. So I'm curious to see what happens in Pittsburgh, and the answer might not be not a ton other than maybe some type of quarterback move there. But the Ravens obviously did what they had to do. And then, obviously, Buffalo handles Denver. Denver starts off with a bang, and then we don't see much. They kind of get a little less aggressive going forward the rest of the game there. So I think the Broncos will be fine. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what everyone does. But another big offseason where, they could be a much better team going into next year themselves there. So The Packers, obviously, I think the biggest thing that pains me from that one is that their defense played outside of a couple plays, obviously, really, really well. It's you hate to, especially on the road, you hate to waste a defensive performance like that, especially the way the first 2 minutes of that game went. You get into get the ball, and then the next thing you know, they're at the Packers 20-yard line with the ball, 25-yard line with the ball, 3 plays, touchdown, down 7. So, I mean, you take away that play. Again, the Packers offense played terrible. I'm not saying the Packers win if that opening kickoff goes differently, but I am saying it's probably like a 3-3 game if those defenses play the way they were. If the Packers don't fumble that opening kickoff at halftime, and then the second half is kind of anybody's ball game there. But I think the Packers they lose, or I shouldn't say they lose. They have a decision to make as far as, and he actually had a potentially pretty bad injury. Josh Myers, their center, they lost to. They were dropping like flies for a bit there in that game yesterday. But Josh Myers, the most significant injury that could be really long term. He is the biggest unrestricted free agent coming up. Which could have been, may have been leaning towards moving away from him and not spending the money on him anyways. So really, the only biggest change will be finding a different center going forward for the Packers. And you lose Elton Jenkins in that game, he's going to be fine long term, obviously, and he's a great player. But their backup left guards were kind of the other story of the lack of offense for the Packers there, and that really shot them in the foot. The 2 left guards that they brought into that game, that was really ugly there. And then as far as receivers, you saw them trying to get it to your guy Jaden Reed there, and he looked like he showed up to play. And so I think the going forward, you hope that they build some more of that offense with an emphasis on getting him the ball, because he's obviously pretty dynamic there. No Christian Watson, but obviously that's he's not to mince words, but he's obviously been tough to stay on the field. So I'm curious what they do to shake up the wide receiver room, because as a whole, when the entire unit is as a whole, it's a really likable and productive and easy to root for unit. But you take one guy out of it, and it looks completely different there. And so, I'm curious to see. I think Romeo will be back at a big role. Same thing with Jaden Reed. I mean, contractually they'll be back, but you know what I mean, or they'll be back in a big role. Watson is the one where I think they roll the dice with him to come back, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something to shake up that room there a little bit. And defensively, I think they'll get aggressive and maybe pick up one piece there. I saw some rumors of them potentially trading Quay Walker there, I guess, 2-3 years ago, first-round pick, who's a physical freak, but awareness and decision-making has been a little off. So curious to see if they move away from him. They love and the entire fan base loves Edgerrin Cooper. He's still a little green in the teeth as a rookie there, but at the end of the day, love what we're seeing from Edgerrin Cooper. So at the end of the day, need Jordan Love to obviously be a little more consistent. It's a very much of a roller coaster watching Jordan Love these last couple of years. There's been some very, very good moments and some very, very poor moments. And so with some consistency, you feel really, really good about the future. But obviously, if he's going to have that type of roller coaster, it's hard to imagine them going on a 4 or 5 game stretch at the end of the year. So at the end of the day, it might come down to that. But feeling really good. Josh Jacobs, showed up to play in the biggest moment, and so you feel good about that going forward. So the way the season ended, I think the fan base was kind of expecting something like that. I had some optimism, but the fan base was, preparing for the worst in that kind of case there. So, not the biggest heartbreak, especially going into Philly the way the season ended. You're not, if you go into Tampa and you lose like that, it probably hurts a lot worse than going into Philly and losing like that. So. Optimism for the future, but I think the fan base is looking for at least a couple small tweaks and maybe one nice addition there.
As Tina Turner once sang, "What's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion?" Okay, so we go to his best game in his career in Dallas last year in the playoff game. You guys couldn't be stopped. And I was like, whoa, that's what they're talking about. So full of optimism with a game in San Fran that you had a chance to win. Right? Was it
Oh, yeah.
right? You right there. So
They missed
here's
a
my
field goal. You could argue they should have won the game. Yeah.
okay. So now we come in this year. Thank you, Mr. Sailor. Russell says, "Sing it, brother." So now you come in with full of optimism. First game of the year in Brazil against who? The Eagles. Jaden Reed had his biggest game of the year. It was a wet track, but I was like, that's why I drafted you, Jaden. Go, Jaden. Go, Jaden. Now listen, I'm going to say this as nicely as I can. I'm not an OC. I'm just speaking it from our lanes, and then of course a high stakes fantasy football player. I said to you for the last 6 weeks, what's going on here? You came from Jordan Love's team to so dependent on Josh Jacobs. And I think LaFleur, the OC, and the DC says, this is how we're going to win. We're not going to put Jordan in those tough situations. If Christian Watson's hurt, that's okay. We got Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft dinged up, that's okay. We got Romeo Dubs. Romeo, you're dinged up. Oh, we got Jordan Reed. Don't forget, we got Mr. Wicks. Oh, don't forget, we got Bo Melton. It's like having five, you go to the nightclub, Riley, right? And you're looking for the 10 or the 9. And my buddy says, what's the difference between a 10 or a 9 when I can go out and get 5 2s? And so you're looking at the same player all around. And there was the last 6 weeks, your offense, that peak just went, and it was written all on the wall here. You got to travel to Philly, loving his elbow. You turn the opening kickoff off, as you said, 2-3 plays later, it's 7-0. It's an uphill battle. And he's looking, and they're dropping like flies. No Watson. And then Romeo hurt. It just goes on. And Jaden Reed's looking around like, where is everyone? I don't know what to say. I don't know who to blame. But you could see this coming the last month in this offense.
Right. And you look back at that Seattle game, and obviously Seattle ended up not being a playoff team. And, they're a team that's very, very well equipped and much better than the average NFL team. But obviously, just a couple. I don't know if it's a couple players shy or the right game plan away from getting over those 3 teams in the NFC. 6 of the 7 losses on the season are to the 3 best teams in the NFC. So. Like I said, they handled business against everybody else, the bad teams, the average teams, the kind of okay teams, maybe or all right teams, and then obviously those few teams just weren't quite it. I'm with you. It's I don't know who to blame other than I'm not saying I'm blaming Jordan Love, but obviously not playing well down the stretch doesn't help. But at the end of the day, didn't have the full chest of assets at the very end of things, but nonetheless, he's got to be better. LaFleur's play calling got to be better, and you said it, leaning a little too much on Josh Jacobs. A little more balance would have been good. And so I think they do shake something up. I think they get a little aggressive and go for. I'm not saying an A+ Hall of Fame caliber player on defense, but another Pro Bowl caliber player on defense to shore that up a little bit more because I really like the defensive effort. Yesterday. Got no quarrels at all other than a few plays in that game there. Stymied Jalen Hurts very, very, very well in that game. A.J. Brown banged up, but at the end of the day, still like what they did there. So curious to see where it goes. The draft in Green Bay, so maybe they try to make some draft night rumbling in their home building. But at the end of the day, you obviously got 2 teams that you're that are right above you in the division, but you obviously got one that depending on what coaching moves they make, is obviously going to be better than they were this year and more consistent and a better team. So I think there's more urgency to not just rest on their laurels. That this defense is good and these young assets are going to keep growing and we're going to be better for it eventually. I think you got to have some urgency. To have a lot of that put in place and return a lot of the guys. But if you make a couple tweaks, I think, you got a good chance of getting over that hump next year. And hopefully Jordan Love is just a little more consistent and you'll be in a great spot.
Well, I'll make this easier on you. Hopefully your GMs and everyone to listen. I'll first start right in your division where you have, I'm going to use Caleb. Okay, you're going to have a new coach, a new OC. Okay, Keenan Allen will be with the Chargers. Okay, you have a Dunze. So if you're going to stick and stay with the chess match of DJ Moore with the Dunze, and then if they add to Cole Kmet and figure out the running backs, that's fine. Okay, so now you step over to Minnesota. Is it going to be McCarthy? Is it going to be Darnold? They have Justin Jefferson. That's the alpha. They
Yeah.
have Justin Jefferson. Addison is a great alpha B. And then they have some other guys around. Nailers had a good year. Okay. So now I'm going to go to the Lions, the team at the top of the heap here. They have an alpha with St. Brown, but he's not like the other divas where he's content if everyone else is eating. He'll get his 6 or 7 looks. He'll get his 60, 70, 80. If he gets a touch, he gets a touch. Jameson, we know, is one bet away from missing a year, or one Viagra away from missing a year. Okay, so again, they got Gibbs and they got Monty. Okay, and a good defense, banged up, but Hutchinson, yada yada yada. So my point with you is simple. Okay, I take a step further. Look at Washington last night. You got Jaden Daniels, who's special. They got the alpha. It took them 6 weeks. They got the alpha with McLaren. But it was the other guys catching when McLaren was doubled. They have an 85-year-old tight end called Zach Ertz that was at the Last Supper. Okay, so they're going to have to build with that. So my point is, I'm staring at you, and you have to figure out this. You got your running back. You got your quarterback. The 5-2's got to go. Hey, Christian Watson, thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Forget about it. He's gone. He's gone. Now what am I going to do with Reed and Dobbs? And which one of Wicks and Bo Melton, you need an alpha and then you need a supporting cast, not 5-2s. That's the bottom line.
No, I'm with you. That is, I think, my exact thoughts, and you said it better than I did. I think, and the concern, I think they keep Romeo Dobbs because I like when he was healthy this year. I like what he did. But now you're probably even more concerned about his concussion health going forward. I mean, that's 2 this year. And slam down there, and yeah, I assume they keep Reed because when they get him the ball, they like what they had there. So I'm with you. I don't know what the answer is as far as who that person is that they can bring in, but I'm with you. I'm with you. I think you said it perfectly there. They've got a lot of guys where when everyone is healthy, even I still like what their offense when they're completely healthy is averaging a couple more yards per play than when you take any guys out, but the likelihood that 4 or 5 guys are going to stay healthy, obviously, for either an entire season or in the playoffs, obviously, is unlikely. I mean, you lose Watson and then you lose 2 of them in the middle of that game yesterday. So I'm with you. You gotta find somebody. I know they're not, and I think the hesitation would be that they probably don't want to pay someone $25-30 million. That's obviously the hurdle and that they can't do because now you can't add anybody on defense, and so you got to find a guy that's some type of alpha that isn't, commanding that much money. So T. Higgins isn't the answer, and I know you don't want to, you don't want to hear that name. And I T. Higgins won me some money as far as fantasy is concerned in my fantasy championship. So he at least brought himself out of the doghouse in that respect. But if we're talking about guys made of glass or being on the field and being available, he's in that same conversation there. So I don't know what the answer is as far as that is concerned. If they need to shake something up, I worry that they're going to be content and try to run things back and just chalk it up to still a young growing offense. But I'm with you. I would like to see some type of shake up there.
Well, the 1-9 favorite, especially since you're hosting the draft, is the Packers at their pick take a defensive guy. So we'll stick to that, or an offensive lineman. Yeah. So we'll stick to that one. I'll go right into the Minnesota and the Rams again. It's 2.5 with a 47. Minnesota team total 24.5, juice under -125. Rams team total 23.5, juice under -120. Again, 24-23 is what they have this. Again, people want to remember what they saw last. 14-2 Minnesota versus 14-2 Detroit Lions. The Island game on Sunday night. Darnold could not, they have 6 red zones. They got nothing. Basically a field goal here or there. Everything high sailing. And again, Kevin O'Connell did homed him in. He was always throwing off that back foot not being planted. So I use this analogy here. think of a shortstop, think of a third baseman taking a ground ball and throwing the ball off of your back foot. The ball's going to sail, and that's what was happening to O'Connell. So unless the Rams get pressure on Darnold, it's going to be a long day for the Rams.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long. You will now see Justin Jefferson eat. You will see Naylor eat. You will see Addison eat. You will see Hawkinson eat. Throw in your running back there.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. It could be Air Jones today. My point is I like the Minnesota team total over the 24.5 at plus 105. That's my play for everyone here on that game. I'm not going to get into anything there other than that. Thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I it's an interesting one because you have the the factor of the Rams. I don't know that a lot of people are on the Rams necessarily, but you also have the factor of the human element of this, where you have to assume there's a lot of Rams families that are affected by what's going on in the LA area, and so I'm very, very curious if that's going to be a rallying cry or if these guys are legitimately distracted by what's going on in LA. And we're not going to know that answer until the ball is rolled out tonight. So I'm kind of torn on this one. I do lean towards the Vikings at least having some success. Like you said, I don't think we're going to see the same type of issues from Sam Darnold that we saw in that Lions game. He's been much better than that all season long. He's been much better against pressure like that for the most part. That's not typically one of his issues in his career. So it was interesting to see there. So I think he is going to correct those issues. One or both of the star receivers on that team is going to have a very, very nice game, I assume, tonight. If you're giving me a healthy Aaron Jones, I'm a little biased, but I'm still a big fan of Aaron Jones. I love what he can do. So I'm with you. I love some Vikings points. This Rams defense for a few weeks there, it was playing really, really well, but you had some reeling offenses. So I think I'm chalking that up to that. I mean, you have San Francisco, who wasn't playing for much and kind of banged up and reeling. Jets or the Jets and the Cardinals towards the end of the season not having to play for much and forcing Kyler into some ugly throws. So I think the Vikings will protect the ball and take. I do think it'll be if the Rams are not distracted and they show up, I think it'll be a close game. But I think the Vikings are a better team, and I don't know that they're a better coach team, but I think they're maybe an equally coached team that is a better team. I think the world of O'Connell after these last couple of years here, and I think Brian Flores, a good defensive coach. It's interesting. Their first half defense has been really good in a lot of cases, and then the wheels have fallen off in the second half. So if they can build up enough of a lead to where it's not as much of a concern, then I think that's how the Vikings win this game. If it's close at half, 17-14, 14-13. I might be interested in the Rams a little bit at halftime, but I do think the Vikings are jump on them a little bit here in this first half here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a million props out there, everyone. If I had to guess, the world's on Kieran Williams anytime touchdown. The world's on Justin Jefferson anytime touchdown. We'd like to get cued here, try to figure one out. So on the Vikings side, I'll use Jordan Addison as the first touchdown and anytime touchdown on that side.
8-1 first time, plus 125 anytime. This is on DraftKings here at least.
Okay, and then on the Rams, let's go to someone that has been ancient, that has been nowhere to be found of late. And I know the whole world's on Kieran Williams, the whole world's on Puka. Let's give the fossil one game here. Let's go with Cooper Kupp. First time touchdown and anytime.
11-1 on the first time, plus 160 anytime for Cooper Kupp there. I'll go. I think Jordan Addison's going to have a really nice game. His second half of the season was really, really good. I'll go with the nice Aaron Jones game. I'll go first touchdown 8-1 plus 125 as well. Same odds as Jordan Addison there. And then for the Rams, I'll go. You had a Jahan Dotson sighting yesterday for the Eagles' first time, so maybe I'll dip deep into the well for the Rams here with a maybe not too deep, but still pretty deep. I'll go Tutu Atwell 45-1, 8-1 on the anytime.
I love where your eyes are there. There was who's the rookie over there that I drafted everywhere for Cooper Cup's backup, Jordan something.
For the Rams here,
Yes,
Whittington.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Keep an eye on him if something happens to Cup.
And then just for reference, you said it. The world is probably on them. -135 anytime for Kyron Williams. -125 for Justin Jefferson anytime. Just for reference there.
And I'll say this: anyone that's a Rams fan here and thinks what you saw from Darnold at the Lions is going to happen here today, make sure you sprinkle some pizza and beer money on a defensive score. Again, you see the ghosts once, you might see them again. What is the Rams defense anytime score?
5-1 +500. Vikings are 475. So right, both of them right about the same spot.
All right. Hockey short menu tonight in hockey. Team totals. If you like the Panthers tonight, team total over 3.5. You can get that at +105. If you like Calgary at Riley's Chicago Blackhawks, team total over 3.5, +115. And if you like the Oilers tonight, you can get their team total over 3.5, +105. In college hoops, short menu here. Let me change the screen over here. There's the Twerps are playing as usual. We know that. And again, I can't give out a side because if I had tomorrow's newspaper,
Is that your own personal betting hell right there? Maryland -15.5 or Minnesota +15.5.
Those are my two kryptonite. Stay far, far away. I think way back in the day, the Golden Gophers under Pitino's son were undefeated, 10-point favorites.
Yeah.
We took them. They lost outright. We can't pick them. And Maryland, same thing. If I took Maryland -15.5 tonight, Minnesota would win by 15. The game just caught my eye. Listen, this UCLA team, which I had high hopes for, lost to Dusty May. And at home, after a loss, they got blown out of the gym second half by 18. So they're in a real tough spot against the Twerps. And played first half down by 4, get run out of the gym again in the second half. Coach Mr. Cronin gets a technical, gets tossed. He's doing everything to wake this team up. This is the game of the year for the Bruins. Now, it opened up at 2. And all of a sudden is catching a lot of steam here. So anyone playing parlays, or my point is UCLA money line, I'm not leaving anything on the table for them to win by 1, 2, 3 or a push it for. I'd like them to win today, and take a look at them in the first half as well. But again, I'm not telling you to run to pay the 160 or 170 out of pocket. But if you got a parlay or two and you want to add the UCLA Bruins money line to go to the the rack and beat Rutgers, this is absolutely the must-win for the Bruins tonight.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, Rutgers, an interesting spot as well. We might be looking at Rutgers as one of the lesser teams. They're still getting some better respect than what I think they're getting more respect than how good I think they really are. But just a great December from UCLA, and now the start to January has been rough. Their one loss in December is a close loss to UNC. They beat Arizona, they beat Gonzaga. And now, you said it. Not only the Michigan loss, the Maryland loss, but started with the loss at Nebraska is a rough one there. So they've got to wake up here and get this win to kind of get back into that picture there, and then they can go on a run. That the rest of their January isn't too tough. So the door is open for them to kind of go on a little run there. So and I with you, I'm not going to try and figure out that Maryland and Minnesota game as well, my friend. I won't go too deep into it. Interesting weekend, Big Ten action. Michigan State playing great. Michigan continuing to play great. Illinois in a sleeper against USC. Didn't have their best score, but in a sleeper against USC. The broadcast the first 5 minutes of the game is talking about how it's 9 a.m. Local time for USC, and then Illinois is the one sleepwalking through it. So I think Illinois will be fine. Iowa blows out Indiana, so it's going to be the middle of the 1 through 14 in the Big Ten is really, really close. So it's going to be interesting there. But going over the NBA, Timberwolves starting to turn the wheels a little bit. They're 14.5-point favorites against the lowly Wizards here. Not going to try and dive into that one. Pistons and Knicks. Knicks are playing some really really ugly ball this last week or so after a great stretch. They've been losing a handful of games, but now 7.5-point favorites against a Pistons team that actually themselves has been playing really solid without Jaden Ivey. You and I have been kind of saying that at some point here without Jaden Ivey, they're going to come back down to earth. I do think this might be one of those nights here, so I'm going to lean towards the Knicks having a really good night here tonight. Grizzlies 3.5, or I'm sorry, Houston 3.5-point favorites at home against the Grizzlies. Both these teams, Grizzlies kind of treading water right now, but Houston playing really, really well. This is another one. I don't like these necessarily, but these two teams are playing each other, I believe, unless I'm missing a game. I believe they just played each other 2 games ago. So, in the Rockets' case, their last game was postponed. That's why it was a few days ago. That's why I was a little confused there. But Rockets win that one on the road by 4. They are favored by 3.5, but don't love the beating a team twice in a few days stretch there. Like I said, the Grizzlies have been a little up and down lately, but at the end of the day, that one's a tough one to call. But I'll lean towards the Grizzlies having a little bit of a good stretch there. Spurs were a team, I think a week ago I said we're going to start winning some games. They have since not been winning some games. They've been losing these last few. Still holding on to the fact that I think they will wake up and win some games. They've been playing some really tough, or a couple tough opponents. My Bulls they should have beaten. But Lakers not playing great these last couple either. Lakers are favored by 3.5, but I'll lean Spurs. Spurs in a close one in that one. And then Miami and the Clippers. Kind of a goofy game with some potential injuries in that one as well. But Clippers 7.5-point favorites. They have not been playing well this last week or so, but I think they wake up tonight. But at the end of the day, this Heat team, when they're, I like betting on them and backing them when they're in a good spot. Right now, they've been winning. I think they're won their last 3, but organizationally and future of the season, not in a great spot, obviously, with the Jimmy Butler situation. So it's a tough time to call it for the Heat because sometimes they wake up and they look like the Heat team that advances to the NBA Finals and whatnot, and sometimes they look like a 10-game under 500 team. So I'm not going to try and call that one, but obviously got to look at the injury report for the Heat and Clippers every game right now that you're playing in with those two teams.
Well, it's going to be interesting. We got, again, a Monday night football game. We have some college hoop games. And for the rest of the week, you and I will be back on Wednesday at 5 o'clock and then back on Friday at some points tomorrow at 10 a.m. or 10:15 a.m. Andrew McGinnis will be here from Wager Talk to talk some NHL. And then around 11:15, Terry Smith from Atlanta Steaks and Seafood will be here to talk about the Atlanta sports and what he has to offer for the rest of January through the Super Bowl there. Closing thoughts, sir.
Closing thoughts. I guess I think we give some not some props, but props to the first responders and the fire teams out in L.A. It's obviously a tough scene. We're having a game tonight with an L.A. team that was supposed to be in L.A. You've got a UFC event this weekend that they say is going to be on, but at the end of the day, obviously safety of everyone is imperative. So credit to everyone who's fighting those fires out there and making it out and trying to obviously stop what's going on there. It sounds like we could be in for some more ugliness these next couple of days potentially there. Got a couple people that I know out there that are okay, but obviously have had to evacuate. So it's a really scary time. And seeing some of these clips is really, really scary that I don't think – I know obviously a lot of different parts of the country have their own different types of disasters, but it's always unfathomable when you have something like this that tears families apart and tears these homes and communities apart. So it's really scary, and obviously hoping for the best and hoping that this next wave of whatever you want to call it, windstorms, whatever it is not as bad as what we've seen. So hoping for the best this weekend that we get out on the positive side and can look to rebuild for them here.
100% great way to say exactly what you said. It's ugly. Travis and Zach from WagerWire live in LA. I kept up to speed with them. They were okay. They were spared. They were just they sent me a live video of it where you could see the fires and it just stayed away far enough, so those two were safe there. New week, new start of the week. The first 2 weeks here with the ECS VIPs, up, down. I thought I'd get a little cute with a three-team money line parlay: Ohio State, the Ravens, and the Bills. So that came in when I was putting it together. That first night it was plus 113. By the time I released it, it was plus 101. But pretty much sweat free for the most part there. Hockey, the NHL has. The scoring has gone down, but what really is pissing the bleep out of me is the third period. After the first 5 minutes, if it's tied, they kind of give each other the wink, wink. Let's just skate around for 15 minutes. Let's each get the point, and then we'll go bust ass in overtime or a shootout. So really going to start to crunch some numbers there. College hoops, we're really into that conference time now. Caravan in his career had never missed back-to-back free throws.
Oh, I was thinking for you there. Oh,
And he comes out of the timeout, misses the first one back end. I'm like, a little too jacked up there. Misses the second one. The loss at Nova, and they were in a tough spot against Georgetown. Georgetown played a good 12, 13 minutes, and then UConn had a good closeout to the first half and then blew them out in the second half. So still life without Liam McNeely. So it's going to be interesting. But full steam ahead here at ECSI, myself and Riley, of course. Shout out to Mr. Saylor. Shout out to Mr. Berry. Shout out to everyone watching and listening. If you haven't by now, head on over to YouTube. East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. It's free. Come on back to East Coast Sports Investors, EC Sports Investors, and turn the notifications on Twitter. So everyone have a great night. Enjoy all the sports and the action. Stay in your lanes, and we will see you soon.